So we can just start talking, I guess.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah,
Good
we're live, we're
afternoon.
rolling. Hey guys, welcome to Real Live Talk. This is episode number 37, and
Oops.
I'm here today with my lovely wife again, Denisse. And this is going to be kind of a shorter episode, and we don't really have anything specific planned. I think we're just going to kind of do a little bit of a recap, maybe highlight some moments from the show that have come up recently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been fun. I've really been enjoying this. I've really been enjoying just kind of connecting with people that I used to be close with,
Right.
and connecting with some new people as well. And just had some really awesome guests, awesome conversations, and I'm excited for what's coming ahead. So if you guys have not already subscribed to Real Live Talk, this we always do these live on Mondays and Thursdays, but they also go out on all of the major podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, Google, all of that. And you can find it just by searching for Real Live Talk, or you can go to redcircle.com/shows/Real Live Talk. That's super long, but that's just the way that it is right now. A lot of slashes. It's slashy. But yeah, if you haven't already subscribed, if you would consider subscribing, that would be amazing. Leaving a review would be super helpful and just help this channel to continue to grow. But yeah, but thank you guys. Thanks, Denisse, for joining me today. Always a pleasure.
It's always great. It's always great to join.
So how are you?
I'm good. I'm trying to share our podcast.
Oh, are you? Well, that's good. I'll give you a second to do that.
So my friends and peoples can see it.
Let me check and make sure the audio is working.
Yeah.
The audio setup is different today too, so I don't know how it sounds. We'll figure that out later. Hopefully it sounds okay for you guys. But yeah, so I don't know. Life is good, right?
Yeah. It's good. Changing, but it's good.
Changing? How is life changing?
Yeah, well, we got into new seasons. Seasons close. Time changes, everything. I feel like a lot of people still feel a little bit sometimes like because of the pandemic and there's certain things that are still maybe restricted and stuff that is like either taking very long for like life to go back to a certain sense of normalcy. But I feel like there's still movement, like life is still happening and taking place and things are moving in motion. There's definitely a lot of adjustment to do in terms of I guess requirements and safety and everything, but I think that it's important that we don't get stuck in that feeling like oh, I'm either missing out or I'm not living to the best or life is boring because this or that. I don't know. So
yeah.
But like I said, yeah, I feel like there's changing. I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm excited for this season and what's bringing.
Yeah, me too. Well, let's we don't have a ton of time because we got to pick up our kids from school. So we couldn't get our act together today. We were supposed to start a little while ago, and we just had too many things going on. But yeah, so let's just talk about some stuff. I wanted to just bring something up. I wanted to mention something from one of my more recent episodes with Eric Scott.
Yes, and I love Brother Eric.
Yeah, we had an awesome conversation. Yeah, we used to call him Brother Eric.
We used to call him Brother Eric, but I'm sure he's happy that it's not what he's called anymore. But him and his wife, they're awesome. We met them at Elam Bible Institute. Now it's called Elam Bible College.
Elam Bible Institute and College.
Oh, okay.
That's what it's called.
There you go. So it got upgraded. Boom, boom, good.
They're not just an institute.
Yeah, it's a college.
They're a college. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually where we met.
We did.
Yeah.
So
little did we know. No, we're not gonna blame him for anything.
No, but yeah, that's totally where we met. It's an awesome place. Super recommend it.
Yeah, and Cindy and Eric were our teachers at the youth ministry track. That's where we were.
Yeah, and Eric was also the Dean of Men at the
and
time, and so
was the Dean of Women.
And so we got a chance to like my senior year, I was the head RA on campus, and so I got to work really closely with Eric, and he was just like a really just awesome mentor in my life. And I told him on the show, and I think I even wrote about it in my book, that he's probably the first person that I can point to in my life who really started to like pull specifically leadership out of me. And I owe a lot to him and to Cindy, because they saw stuff in me, and you could probably say this too, like saw stuff in me that I couldn't really see in myself at the time, and just even giving me opportunities and things like that. And it was pretty cool. I felt like I was kind of a big deal, because like I had an office like in the dean's office and stuff like that while I was a senior. And anyway, it was just a super cool time,
awesome.
and we just owe a lot to them.
Yeah, it was so much fun to learn under them, and just like glean from their heart to young people, and seeing people following after God and stuff. I remember, like RA training was so much fun. I always had a great time with them, and just learning from them. So it was awesome to see that episode, and I loved a lot of the stuff that that was shared during that episode. Like share a little bit of his testimony and just his heart for discipleship, and also like bringing such a balance about the fact that sometimes there are things that happen in our lives that are hard, that are difficult, and sometimes we could be so easily tempted to question the goodness of God in those seasons, or his faithfulness, or even wonder, like, where are you, God? Like, why is this taking place? And I think it's such a beautiful testimony, like his walk, how he's learned to walk through those seasons. And I feel like when we go through things, God always uses our challenges to be able to speak into other people's lives, and to be able to encourage others that might see us walk through that. Or when we get to share our struggles and our stories. So I think struggle or crisis or any challenge that we face, it's not just because,
right,
and it's not just like, oh, it's a coincidence, and it definitely is not because you have sin in your life. When we could so easily think or point and say that that's the reason why we're facing difficulty. But I think that is adversity in general. It's such an opportunity to see God and to see different glimpses of who God is and his character and everything. So it's definitely awesome. And I think as leaders, it doesn't, even if you don't have a platform for leadership, you still have a certain level of influence over someone's life.
Sure.
There are people that are looking at to you, maybe, a brother or sister, somebody at work, somebody that you work close with, a friend, that might be younger than you are. Like, there's always opportunities for leadership without the title of, I'm the boss or the leader. And those opportunities for you to exemplify to others, or for you to show character. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's great. And just going back to something that you said, one of the things that the Lord has really been highlighting in my life recently has been this thing about when you do have adversity, when you go through something, when there's some kind of a challenge that you're facing or something like that, just something that you're up against that's testing you, testing your faith, that it really is. I'm trying to learn how to look at every obstacle as another opportunity for God's goodness to shine through all of it. You know what I mean? And that's not always easy.
Oh, no,
and definitely like as you go through, some things that people are dealing with right now are obviously really, really horrible and really intense things. You know what I mean? And so I'm always careful about this, because like I never want to belittle or look down on any of that. But I would just say that no matter what you're dealing with, what you're going through, how difficult or impossible even that it seems right now, it really is an opportunity for, the Bible says in Philippians chapter 3 that we get to know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings.
Yeah.
And so even when there are those times of suffering, we really do have an opportunity to experience his goodness, his presence, his favor, even in a way that we wouldn't his, like his grace and favor and peace, all of it is always available to us.
Mhm.
But there's just something like there's a real dimension of this where God is near, the Bible says, to the
Mhm.
brokenhearted,
Yeah.
right? That we have an opportunity to maybe see him in a way we haven't seen him before,
Yes.
to experience him in a way that maybe we haven't experienced him before, when we do go through those, more
Mhm.
difficult and challenging
Oh
and
yeah,
perplexing seasons of
definitely.
life.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's never easy. I mean, um there are complex situations. There are complex, I mean, emotions and feelings are complex, in general. And
Yeah.
especially like right now, I know there's a lot of people that have lost loved ones during the pandemic, unexpected circumstances and things like that. And I think, especially when you're dealing with the loss of someone that you love, whether expected or unexpected, there's always that like evaluation of how fragile life is,
Mm-hmm.
and the reality that you're gonna be you're temporarily, because we believe that when we are finally with the Lord, like we'll see our loved ones again. So we have this hope. Thessalonians says that
Yeah.
we have this
Yeah.
hope that death is just sleep, and we'll see each other again. But I do know that, I mean, it's a difficult adjustment,
Mm-hmm.
to from one point having someone that you either have such a close relationship, or you get to see them, you get to touch them, you have that face-to-face interaction, and then all of a sudden it's no longer there. It's the grieving process is never easy.
Right.
It's a process, and everybody walks it differently because we are so different, you know so to some people, there's certain parts of the process that God gives them such a grace to be able to walk through them quickly. And
Mm-hmm.
then there are setbacks to it. You step back, and you're like, oh, I'm not there yet. So and God is so gracious to help us walk through all of it. And it's it's beautiful. I think it's such a beautiful process, even though it's so costly. It's a high price that you pay, but there's also a beautiful reward from it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing. I wanted to read something. The reason I
Mm-hmm.
we brought that up, I wanted to just kind of share something because, well, anyway, I'll let it kind of speak for itself. But after that episode with
Mm-hmm.
with Eric Scott, a friend sent me a message and asked if it would be okay for him to share. He's just said that he was blessed by the conversation, and he asked
Mm-hmm.
if it would be okay to share the conversation with a group of leaders in Africa and India.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, yeah, of course,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so figured out a way to get it to send it out and stuff like that. And then he sent me back a response that he received from a woman named Annie. And I
Mm-hmm.
did get permission from Annie to be able to share this publicly. I wouldn't have done that without permission, but she said it was okay. It was okay to use her name and everything. So here's what the letter that Andy sent, Annie sent to Pastor Dale, who is the friend that contacted me about sending out the information. She said, "Thank you so much for sharing the podcast with me. I have listened to it more than twice.
Wow.
I truly appreciated the conversation. What stood out for me was, and this is a quote
From the
that
episode.
Eric shared in the episode. You have all you need for the season you are in,
Yeah.
and the balance that both the presenter and the guest bring in conversations around suffering for a believer.
Mm-hmm.
I know I have had my share of suffering, but I have also learned to appreciate that there are people who have had worse experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to the conversation brought back a lot of memories, having lost 4 children and being
Wow.
widowed twice now. I will agree I did shed some tears. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I look back and see God's faithfulness. He has literally ordered my steps. Listening to Eric as he shared some of his difficult experiences brings the reality that no one is exempt from pain in this life. Allow me to mention that being constantly in the Word through the end-to-end courses has helped me handle Danford's home call differently. Memories are still so fresh and the
Mm-hmm.
pain is there, yet I am learning to rest in God. I'm at a
Wow.
place in my life where I'm seeking God's guidance for every step I make, because one thing I pray is that I will take hold of that for which He has preserved me. I Um,
I believe.
I believe that I have been preserved to serve that others may be saved. Thank you again for sharing this powerful podcast. God's truth cuts across culture. Yeah, so that moved me
Wow.
so much. Obviously,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
I so
great.
appreciated her openness and sharing some of her story like that.
Mhm.
And obviously, like really, really difficult, painful experiences and suffering that
Yeah.
she went through. But just like her words at the end here, I'm at a place where I'm seeking God's guidance for every step I make. One thing I pray is that I take hold of that for which He has preserved me, believe that I have been preserved to serve that others may be saved.
Wow.
And that's one thing. And like, I don't know how comforting that is when you're in the moment of
Right.
something that's difficult that you're going through.
Mhm.
But it really is the reality that, and I remember Eric even bringing this out in the podcast, is that when we go through something difficult, that we then become positioned so that we can be a comfort to others that might be
Exactly.
going through something
Yeah.
similar
Yeah.
or whatever, that we learn how to relate to God differently, and we learn how to relate to others differently. And the one thing that I was pointing out in that episode was the importance of just making sure that when you are going through something difficult or painful, that you don't allow it to create calluses on your heart, because we could really
Yes.
go that way
Mhm.
where we allow those things to scar us to the point that we become like hardened, or we
Yeah.
become cynical, or you know what I mean. But we could also go the other way where we allow it to sensitize us more to God, to His voice, to His Spirit, to His moving, to just like the reality of allowing His embrace to surround us and shelter us and shield us, so that we're not like becoming defensive through the process, but we're becoming more sensitive to Him. And then we really open ourselves up and position ourselves so that we can be used by Him, in
Mhm.
the future as we go forward, to be a blessing and a comfort to others in the process. So I just so appreciated these words, really appreciated Annie for sharing, and it's it just blessed me so much to know, because like that's been the point of this, right, is to
Yeah.
impact the lives of people. And I think it's cool just to know that a simple conversation among friends really can have an effect on somebody who's like on the other side of the world.
Yes.
And it, just kind of I love that on some level, like I was able to kind of be a
A
mediator
part of
between
that.
this conversation
Yeah.
that allowed this person to be touched by that. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I was just super moved by that, so I wanted to share it.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was reminded of Psalm 27:13. David writes the psalm, and he says, I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the law in the land of the living. Like, and before all that, he's going through difficulties and stuff. And I think it's and something that you've said a lot of times. I'm not sure if you've said this on the podcast a lot, but I've always heard you make the statement, and it's always stuck out to me because I think it is so true. Is that when you're going through difficulty, when all things are going, the one thing that the enemy cannot take away from you is your ability to worship God
Mm,
through that, in that moment. And worship has such a way to bringing back your heart
yeah,
when your emotions start creating havoc, when your mind is going into all these ideas and thoughts and everything. And it's so true, like when the hard things happen, your our unfortunately our flesh, the first response of our flesh will be to self preserve and to protect. And
sure,
it's that pain response to say, oh, it hurts,
yeah,
I got to do something because this hurts and it's
yeah,
uncomfortable and I don't like it. So, um, the king in the kingdom, we're asked to actually turn towards him, turns towards the source to give him our pain. And there are times where it's hard. It's
sure,
difficult to give him your pain because we, as moral people, or I was, flesh and bone, we so many times can easily think that he doesn't quite understand our pain. We all experience pain and loss in different ways. And and we feel differently, so even when I
Sure.
have gone through things and I can comfort someone, I always have to be reminded that I don't quite completely would ever understand the pain of what they've gone through, but I do know someone who
Yeah.
does. I
Yeah.
do know someone
Absolutely.
who could completely and perfectly and better than anyone understand
Yeah.
not just the feeling but the knows. He knows that he knows that he knows, and he's never going to leave you. He's right there, and he's walking with you, and he's walking you through that, and to me that's such a comforting thought. And when I hear of friends or people that are going through difficulties and stuff, I hold on to that. I hold on to say, that scripture that I read. Like I would have lost heart. They said I would have completely lost my mind. I would have completely,
Yeah.
given
Yeah.
up.
Quit. Yeah.
But I know that I will see the goodness of God in the land of the living.
Yeah.
I have this hope that I can hold on to, that I will not, I refuse to be denied of this truth, that I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. That
Yeah.
means right now in this season, no matter what I'm going through, when the night feels the darkness, that's where I'll experience His goodness even more. And I love the stories that Eric was sharing and everything. And I love that quote that she mentioned, you have what you need for this season. And I feel
Hmm.
like that's such a great reminder from God to say, hey, I don't let you go through things without giving you the grace and the ability to go through them.
Sure. Yeah.
And the enemy wants you to forget that. He definitely wants you to forget that. Because if he gets you to forget that, then you are looking at yourself from a place of disadvantage.
Absolutely.
You already feel like, oh, I might not make this one. But God never puts you in a place of disadvantage. If all, I think that sometimes God uses those moments to highlight things in our lives, and strengths that we have, that we are yet to experience, or that we are yet to recognize that they're inside of us.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the other things that came out was how God doesn't allow anything to be wasted.
Oh yes,
Doesn't allow
yes.
any suffering or any
Mm-hmm.
difficulty that we're going through, because He's such a redeemer. He's so perfect
Yes.
at redeeming our lives, redeeming our situations. That He, and this is like maybe for some people a cliche verse because they hear it in like every sermon, but that He really does cause all things to work together for our good.
Yeah.
He really does. It's what He's perfect at it.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, like He doesn't allow any of it to be wasted. And then another conversation that I had recently was with Stacy
Mm-hmm.
Diffendaffer. I think that was either last week or the week before, and that was such a I
Sharing her
love that
story.
conversation. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's sharing her story about some things that she had been through, some tragic experiences,
Mm-hmm.
where she had been raped when she was 16, and
Wow.
that's how she lost her virginity. And it was just like sharing her story about some of the suffering that she went through, and for a long time that's what she did. She just kind of developed those calluses, and she became really defensive, and she
Mm-hmm.
became, but here's what happened in her life. Like she got to the point where she was how should I describe it? Like she found her comfort in her being able to always be going, always be moving, always be doing
Right.
something. I related to that so well because there
No,
was a
there's
time
no
in my life
rest.
where
Yeah.
I did that too. Like I would never allow myself to stop.
Stop.
I wouldn't be. I
Yeah.
would literally go home. Like I would. I wouldn't go home most nights, most days. Like I'd be at school, and then I'd be working, and then I'd be out with my friends, and a lot of times it'd be 2, 3 in the morning. I'd get home, and I would get home just exhausted enough to kind of just fall asleep right away, so I
Mm-hmm.
could get up just a few hours later and start the process over. Because I did not like being alone. I didn't like being
Mm-hmm.
alone with my thoughts.
Yeah. Well, because when you have those moments of alone time, that's when you have to kind of face the music. You have to, like you say, the thought comes, like the when there is rest, and there's quietness, the the feeling, the whatever is going on becomes more real. It begins to speak louder. When there's motion, when there's anything else, it's you let the busyness take care of
Yeah,
the pain. I mean, there are people that there's just one of the coping mechanisms. People have different ways of cope with things. Some people just like get going, get busy. Other people turn to addictions or different vices. And there's just different ways that we try to cope with what we're going through.
absolutely.
And I think that when we get to see the the story being redeemed, we can even get to the point to realize, like, wow, like everything that God has done in my life, I wouldn't be able to have those beautiful things if I hadn't gone through that
Mm-hmm.
process, you know? And I mean, you obviously never wish, obviously, that was God never intended for her to have to go through that.
Yeah,
But God can use anything. There's nothing broken. There's nothing wasted. There's nothing um, like crumble or destroy, or that man can destroy, that he cannot turn
yeah,
around and mend it and fix it and
yeah.
and redeem it.
And that's important to understand, because a lot of people would say, well, if all this good came out of this, then their conclusion would be, well, then God must have caused it,
Yes,
or God must
exactly.
have. And
Yes.
it's not,
And
it's
that's
really
not what
not
we're
that.
saying. No,
God's
no,
not the
no.
author of
At
any of
all.
the
Mhm.
of the pain or the torment or the confusion that comes into our lives. He just isn't.
Yeah.
He's not the cause of it, but he also, like you said, he doesn't waste it. He doesn't allow
Yeah.
it to be wasted, because he loves us that much, and because
Mhm.
he's so good, and he is our redeemer. It's who he is. It's in his nature. So he can't
Mhm.
not he can't not redeem your life. He's always
Yeah.
working toward that with you. But again, I do think that we have a part to play in responding to him.
Yeah.
We don't have to do it perfectly, because none of us knows how to navigate tragedy or
No.
pain. Like, none of us knows how to navigate these things perfectly.
Right.
But he's so faithful that, I mean, even if we just give him like a little bit, sometimes, like the just a little bit of a
Yeah.
response.
And I think it's important that uh, we don't let ourselves become defined by our pain. Um, I can, I can say, like, there are seasons in my life that there was just so much pain, or there's difficulty and stuff like that, and I allow that to take place, to let that pain define me, and it changes you, it changes your relationship
Yeah,
with others, it changes your perception of things, that, like you say, you can become so callous even without intending it, but it's that you're coping that way, you're allowing that to define you, and when that happens, you so easily can miss out of your true identity, you can miss
sure.
out of
Yeah,
the true greatness that is inside of you, and the things that God has placed in you. You lose interest in things, you stop enjoying doing certain things because the pain becomes so great and so overwhelming.
mm,
That's all you can see.
yeah,
And I mean, I'm not even sure why we're, talking a lot about this. I think maybe somebody, God knows, somebody needs to be hearing this today. And I think that what we can say is that that is not your reality.
mm,
That pain is not your reality. Um, God has a much bigger reality for you, and it's not a mysticism. Oh, like out there. No, 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 no. It's a tangible, real reality that
mm,
He can help you walk through this process.
yeah.
That He
That's right.
has people around you to walk with you, because also the worst we can do when we're dealing with difficulty is we can do, when we think like, oh no, I got to do this by myself. There are times where, yeah, you need to, go through certain processes, and it's just you and God. I believe that. But many times we isolate ourselves in our pain, and that gives the such a room for the enemy just to do whatever he wants. He just comes in to lies to you, and there's nobody else there to even be a sounding board for what you're going through, and or even stand in the gap with you.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're going through difficulty and you have people around that love you, I know sometimes it's hard because we always all worry about, like, oh, they're gonna judge me because they're gonna tell me that I should be mature enough to do this. I mean, I know many times I did that. Like, I feel like I've been a Christian for this long. I should got this together. I should know what to do.
Yeah.
And listen, none of that matters. None of them matters.
We all tend to hold ourselves to a higher and an unfair standard
Yeah.
than what we would even give away to others, right? Like we would.
We
I
give
think we have a
grace to
tendency to
others,
give
but
grace
we
to
won't
other
give it to
people, but then when it
ourselves.
comes to
Yeah.
us, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this. I shouldn't be like this. I shouldn't. And then
Yeah.
we think that there's going to be some kind of a stigma attached to us if we ask for help, or we don't want to be a burden, and all these like
Yeah.
stupid things that are just, they just get in the way. They're just lies that the enemy uses to try to keep you from connecting with people and getting the freedom that you need. Because I mean, complete freedom has been made available to us in Christ.
Yes.
But he's also surrounded us with people for a reason. He's called us to be part of a body of believers for a reason, so that we can have that influence and that impact, and we can help each other through situations and trials and all these different things. Like, so yeah, I think that was actually something that I talked about with Stacy, because she went through a program that you and I are familiar with from our time in Mexico, a program called Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah.
And not that I mean, we've never gone through the program.
No.
I should mention, so that I don't want I can't really speak for the inner workings of the program,
Right.
but it was offered at a church that we were serving at and stuff like that. Her and her husband just went through it, and just complete transformation in their, completely transformed, and so much healing has taken place in her life. But that's one of the things that we were kind of hitting on, was like, if you need help, just like admit it, and don't let there be, don't take on that condemnation, and don't take on any, like, if somebody's going to think badly about you, like, so what? Like, what really matters at the end of the day is that you are getting the help and the freedom that you really need. And so don't allow it to be something that brings shame into your life, or that holds you back, because it's just so not necessary. I mean, these even programs, programs, I have my challenge with certain programs, specifically the kind of programs where they don't ever really allow you to be free. I think even them, they help a lot of people. They help a lot of people. But I do believe that you can be free and walk in freedom, that you don't have to be considered an addict for the rest of your life. Like, once an addict, always an addict. I do have a problem when that becomes the focus of some of these programs, but Celebrate Recovery is not like that, by the way. And there's good things, and there's good people that God has put out there to bring help,
there are
and
different
counseling,
ministries
and things like that.
And sometimes maybe you need to even go outside of like a ministry. Maybe you need to go to counselor with like a professional counselor, in terms of like outside of a Christian counselor, because that's what you need. And there's nothing wrong with taking those steps. And I mean, God makes provision for that. You know what I mean? Like, I just, even with like your health, I believe like God is our healer. Yes, his name is Jehovah Rapha. He is our healer. But he's also given wisdom and understanding to doctors and things like that, to be able to help and take care. And even whatever decision you make in terms of your health, you always do want to, balance it out, like listen to what the doctor's saying. But at the end of the day, God has the last word, so healing is one of those things that I think can be messy. I mean, in order to clean something that is dirty or messy or out of place and it's out of track, I mean, you have to clean it out. And in order to clean it out, it means you have to take whatever's dirty out, you know? Like so sometimes we think of healing as just like, oh, something that can be
Right.
automatic. And I'm
Right.
not saying that there are not people who
Oh, yeah.
has
Oh,
been
yeah.
their experience, and I'm grateful for them. I'm grateful for those that God has just done it automatically and in an instant. I mean, again, God is sovereign. He can do whatever he wants, however he wants, through whoever he wants, and for whoever he wants. That's his sovereignty. And we can't touch that, you know?
Yeah.
But there are other people that maybe they do need to walk through a process, you know?
Well, here's the thing on that. Like, and we're almost out of time, but I wanted to talk about other things.
Other recaps we got really into.
But here's the thing. I've had that experience in my life where I'll just say, like, I had a pornography addiction, many years ago, even before we met, you and I.
Mm-hmm.
And when God broke it, it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, never, and never went back to it to this day. Like, not even
Mm-hmm.
once. Like literally not even one time.
Mm-hmm.
It was gone. Now, I will not say that there was never like a thought in my mind or struggle in my mind, for sure. But it was even to the point that the real desire to go back to it just wasn't there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have had that experience where it's just an instantaneous sort of a thing. And I know people that happened to them with drugs and with cigarettes and stuff like that. My grandmother, I remember going to revival services.
My dad stopped smoking.
Remember the tent revival meetings?
Yeah.
Went to one with my grandmother, and she had smoked like forever, like a lot. And she just completely gone. She was just done smoking after she went to this revival service. And so that happens too. But one of the things that Stacy brought out was that God actually walked her through a process dealing with more of the stuff that she had gotten into with chronic health conditions and her physical health being really in really, really bad shape. And just go back and listen to the episode if so that you can get the details on that. But really bad shape. And we even talk about that. Like, there's times where God will just break through and heal you. I believe in healing. We were praying for people yesterday to be healed, and we do it all the time. And it's like my favorite thing in the world is to pray for people to get healed. And I love seeing the miracles. But what she was explaining was that God actually walked her through a process of learning how to live a healthier lifestyle and learning how to live in divine health. Because what she said was, and of course God's bigger than this, and he can walk us through anything. But what she said was, if God had just healed me completely, she said, like, I wasn't in the right place mentally, where I would have just kind of fallen back into old patterns, And so what happened was God led her through a process of getting healed, but also developing a healthy lifestyle and learning how to walk in divine health and develop that in her life. That was the journey that she was on. And so the whole point here is that wherever you are, whatever the process of God is in your life, don't compare yourself to others and why it's not working out for you like it worked out for someone else, because God has us all in a different place. And what you need to know above all else is that he is faithful and that he will complete the work that he's begun in you, whether it happens in an instant or whether it's a process that you walk out. He's faithful. He walks with you. He's gone before you. He's never going to leave you, never going to forsake you. He's always going to give you what you need. Again, coming back to what Annie was referring to, that he gives you the grace that you need for the season that you're in. Yeah. He's always faithful.
And I think that one thing that we should always remember is that you'll never run out of opportunities with God. You know what I mean? Like, he's always gonna be helping you, even if you start the process and you take a few steps and then you go back, he's still gonna be, and I think it's more us than him that has this mentality of like, oh, I gotta start from square one.
Right.
Like, no, when he would actually will just help you walk through, like, all, as simple as, I mean, I've been through processes with God where he'll just, I'm like, oh God, like, We gotta start over again, and
Mhm.
he'll just be like, nope, just start where you stopped. Just keep on going.
That's right.
Don't need to go back.
That's right.
You already walked through that. No need. Just come on. Get up. Let's go. And there's such a relief to know that we'll never run out of opportunities with him, because if there's anybody patient and kind, definitely him.
That's right. That's right.
He is more than enough
Yeah.
patient with all of us, and he doesn't play favorites. He will never do. He has never done it. And he knows, just like you said, he knows exactly where
Yeah.
you are, and he cares for you. He doesn't want you to go through the process the same way that I did, or the same way that the pastor Duke did, or that anybody else. No, we're just examples. We're just there to edify your faith. We're just there to create expectation in your heart to say, if he did it for them, he can surely do it for me.
It's good.
So it was, I mean, the episode about Eric with Eric was amazing. I was blessed. I really, really, truly enjoyed it. I enjoyed the episode with Stacy, hearing her story. And there's been a couple others, and we were going to talk about
we're
them.
Out of time.
And we're out of
Sorry,
time.
we didn't get to mention all of the most recent ones,
I want
but
to talk about one last
I really
week
enjoyed the
from
one with
Jeff.
Jeff
Yes,
Dio
yeah.
from
I love that
anybody
one.
who used to listen to Sonic Flood
Back
in the day. Anybody who's
it.
like our age, our generation, would definitely know Sonic Flood if you were in the church at that time. A band that really helped to push music out there, their own, but also others. Because bands like you would find on the first two albums that they did, you'll find like really big songs from Delirious and from others that had an avenue to be pushed out in a greater way than maybe it would have had a chance to be. And so listen to that episode. I think it was the one right before this, right? So episode 36 maybe. And with Jeff Dio, and I intended on asking more questions about the Sonic Flood days because I'm super into that kind of stuff, but we just kind of got into talking about worship right from the beginning and just kind of rolled right through the time. But it was a really good conversation about worship and developing intimacy with the Father. So
and another episode that was one of my favorites, just to briefly mention it, just so that if you haven't heard it, you can go back and listen to it, is the episode you had when you interview Joe Corney. We went to school, both of us, with Joe Corney, but there were just so many different things that he touched on in general in terms of community and doing life with others. That's such a natural process, a natural relationships, and that's how discipleship works. That's how growing in Christ works in such a natural way. And I really, really enjoy that episode, because I think nowadays, in our busyness and in our social media time, and that we interact with each other, but we don't quite have depth in our interactions. We don't go deep. We touch the surface of our relationships. And it just reminded me how important it is to have depth, to develop genuine depth in your relationships, in your interactions with others. And that's such a heart of God. That's the heart of God. The heart of God is that those that he puts around you, that they will be a blessing to your life, that they will help you and equip you, that they will push you, and they will even facilitate for you to become who God has called you to be. And I think that's so important that we remember that these days, when we have such a I remember when we were dating, it was internet was out there, but it was still expensive. It was video chat wasn't that there yet. And I remember, when I was in Mexico and I would be working and saving my money to buy a phone card so that I can talk to you for an hour or so, and it's relationships and interaction has become more available, with technology, which is great. And I'm so grateful for that because, I have family in Mexico and I'm grateful that they're
Yeah.
just one dial away. I can call my mom, which I'm going to do later today, and just talk to her and hear his voice or see her. And I'm so grateful for that. But if you don't actually develop your new or in the new relationships or interactions that you have, you don't develop that, then you actually are just not even living, like you're not doing life with others.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're not doing, and in our families too, like, and that was such an important point in that episode, that, and families, it's really big for me, like that's so big in my heart, that the importance of being present when you have those moments with your family, that you are present in what's happening. I'm going to take a second to just brag on my oldest child, Elijah. He was so excited this week when he came because he has the opportunity to campaign to be vice president for his class, and he it's like this bittersweet, like they're growing and they're turning into their own person. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, what happens if he doesn't win, and disappointment. And the truth is, like, well, you know what? That's part of being a parent, to help them walk through those moments. What happens if this doesn't pan out
Feel
like
bad
you
about
expected?
it. Cry about it. It's okay. Like, it's okay to have those experiences. We've got to allow our kids, I think, sometimes to feel stuff.
Yeah.
So that, and then be there for them while they're going through it, while they're feeling it. But I think when we can take on this thing where we want to over shelter them and not allow them to feel pain, to not allow them to feel disappointment or frustration, but there's growth that happens even in that too.
Yeah. So. And then just, like the importance of being there, like, like if I'm always busy, if I'm always working, if I work so much and I'm always grinding to provide for my family, I can so easily get out of balance that I will lose the reason why I'm grinding. I'm doing this for them, but I get out of balance so easily that I can forget to enjoy the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, So all these episodes had great key important areas that I think that they touched in, that they're practical. They're not just talking about you can apply all these principles to your relationship with God, but how all these principles also easily apply to our relationships horizontally, and to our families and to our everyday life.
Yeah. Well, the goal is to keep providing conversations, just opening those doors, to keep having conversations that are transformational in nature, and there's not really specific themes. It's just kind of whatever comes out. And so I am grateful so much for when I do receive those testimonies of someone who is impacted in some way. And I really do just appreciate anybody who took a moment to listen to this episode, whether it was in bits and pieces or the whole thing. Anybody who's listened to any of the episodes along the way, or who joins up in the future. Really appreciate it. There's so much content out there. There's so many things you could be listening to. So many things. Like, I know you're busy and you have plenty of stuff that you could be doing with your life, that you are doing with your life, and just taking a moment to stop by and hang out with us and listen to the conversation. It really truly means the world to me. If you haven't already subscribed to Real Life Talk, make sure you take a moment and hit the subscribe button. Share it with someone you think could benefit from listening to the episode as well. Leave a review. I'd be super grateful. But appreciate you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this with me.
Thank you for letting me recap with you. It was fun. It's very, very fun.
All right.
Be blessed.
See you guys.